What are we building today? We're building a dining room table. This table will look great in your dining room, on your patio, or wherever you choose. And it will form a great centerpiece for you to be proud of. Materials that are needed. We are using a 32mm thick pine tabletop. For the frame, we are using 3 lengths of 94 by 22mm planed all-round pine timber, and these are 1.8 meter long. Now from here, we're going to cut them down to 1.662 long for the front and back, and then for the sides, we're going to cut it down to 6.62. It's a good idea to keep the offcuts as these come in handy as spacers later on in the project. For the legs, we will be using 2 lengths of 69 by 69 planed all-round pine. We're going to be cutting these down to 4 pieces of 730mm long. Now remember, builders can cut all this for you. All you have to do is give them your exact cutting list. They'll cut it all to size for you, making it really easy and convenient. To give it the desired look, I've chosen to use fired earth wood sealer. I've chosen the teak for the tabletop and the white for the legs. What I like about this wood sealer is that it's water-based, lead-free, low odor, and non-toxic. It still allows the natural wood grain and texture to come through and penetrate through the sealer. The tools that you're going to need is a sander, a cordless drill. I'm using the Craig R3 pocket hole jig, some wood clamps, a tape measure, a pencil, and a paintbrush or a roller. We're going to start off by building the framework. Now I've got my tabletop on top here, and I've flipped it up to see which is the better side. I've got the better side on the undersurface, and I'm going to be working on top. Now I'm starting off with the framework, and we're kind of working upside down here. It's actually going to make life easy. I'm going to be making use of that Craig pocket hole tool, and that's going to make my pocket holes in on the side, and that'll screw that in nice and tight. Now you don't need exact measurements, because remember it's on the inside, as long as you have around about 300 to 250 mil space in between the pocket holes. I'm just putting a sight line so I know roughly where to put my pocket holes. Okay, that's one done. I'm going to do exactly the same thing for the next one and for the sides. Now this is the pocket hole jig. It's very simple to use. It's got a guide which allows the drill bit to go in at an angle, and it has a stopper on the drill bit to stop it from going in too deep. It's very easy to hold into place, and I make use of a Craig clamp. Now this is an Auto Max clamp. What I really like about this clamp is all I do is adjust the pressure. The actual size of the clamping adjusts automatically. So I pop that into my jig, slide it in. Here's my sight lines, line it up, and I hold into position, and that clamps tight. And now I've clamped it onto the table and to the timber because that clamp adjusts to whatever size I am clamping to. Then I'm just going to slide away all the way down at each point. There's my first piece done. Knock all the sawdust out, and there are all my pocket holes. Now remember, that's going to be sitting on the inside, and all my screws are going to go down diagonally into the underside of the timber. I've got all the pocket holes evenly spaced. I'm going to do exactly the same thing for the rest of the pieces. As you can see, when using the Craig tool, it makes plenty of sawdust and a big mess. So it's a good idea just to stop, clear everything out the way, clean up, and then get started again. The next step we're going to be doing is sanding down the timber just to remove any splinters or any burrs, and it also preps the material to make it easier and more susceptible for the wood sealer to bind onto the timber. I'm making use of an orbital sander. It makes sanding so much easier, and it takes out the effort. Remember, if you are using orbital sander, it puts a lot of sawdust into the atmosphere. It's a good idea to make use of a vacuum to draw all of that into the cleaner. All the hard PT work is done. The sanding is complete. I've sanded every single component down and removed any sharp burrs and any splinters. The fun part is the assembly part. Now I've got my pocket holes. We're working upside down. I'm going to just turn this around, and I'm going to line that up square into the side of my leg, and I'm going to do both sides. Now I mentioned these earlier about using these spacers. These are the leftover bits. When you are going to be measuring it up, I'm going to be bringing the side panel into the center of the leg, and the best way to do it is actually use a spacer. That way you're not likely to make a measuring mistake and it's consistent all the way through the project. I'm using my tabletop because I know it's square, so I'm going to line the leg right up to the edge, and I'm going to make use of a quick clamp to hold it down firm. Then I'm going to slide that into position. I'll put some glue in between those mating surfaces. Then I'm going to pop in my Craig screw and drive it in with the driver. Okay, my framework is starting to get some shape now. All I need to do now is put in the side pieces to join the two legs together, and then I'm going to secure it to the tabletop. I like to make use of the quick clamp as it's basically like another pair of hands for me, and it'll just hold this sturdy, otherwise I'm going to drop it. Making use of my spacer to get the same distance as I used on the other side. Line it up into position. Put some wood glue. Pop in my Craig screws. And then I'm going to drive that into position. It's the one side done. I'm going to move over to do the other side and then carry on all the way around the framework. We're getting towards the end of the complete structure now. The framework is complete. I now need to position it in the right position of the table. I've got about a 20mm gap between each leg, and that's going to give me the center position of the framework. Remember, it's a good idea to make sure you use some wood glue on the mating surfaces so that it glues down securely to the tabletop. Okay, to save a bit of time, I've put all my Craig screws in and basically got a bit of a production line going. So once I've got it into position, I can just carry on all the way around the framework, screwing that down onto the tabletop. Now remember, sometimes your tabletop can seem slightly bowed. As you screw it down, it'll pull it flat and even. Before you screw it down, always double check to make sure you have got it in the exact center place where you want it, and you can make use of a clamp just to hold it into place so it doesn't move whilst you're screwing it all down. My structure is finally complete. All I need to do now is start staining it and sealing up the timber. Remember, I'm using the white wood sealer on the framework and the legs, and I'm going to use the teak stain on the tabletop. So I'm going to get cracking with that and finish off this DIY. Remember, apply a light coat, and you need to do at least 2 to 3 coats. And here's an example of where you can see that grain and character penetrating through the wood stain. Now I'm finished, and wow, the white and the contrast of the teak really came together well. The most important thing now is to actually get it into a location and start putting it to use. Remember, everything you need is available at your local builder's outlet. If you enjoyed this DIY, like it, share it. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel where there's a range of clips just like this.